All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call our Ways and Means Full Committee to order. We have a number of measures that have come out of our various subcommittees thus far for consideration today. We'll go straight in order on our calendar. There's going to be one addition to the calendar. We'll take it last. It's going to be House Bill 132, which is LC 431151. This is a measure that had previously passed to this committee. We remitted it back to income tax to confirm that some of the language was accurate. It was accurate, so there's been no change whatsoever to the bill. So we're bringing it back to full today as well. We'll start with who was screaming that they had to get out of here first? Anybody raising their hand? A freshman?
I did, but I don't want to admit it now. I'm calling it out.
Yeah. All right, we'll start with House Bill 352, which is LC 431203, authored by Representative Albert Reeves. And you are number 29. Representative Reeves, if you have any comment with regard to that measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No comment. This is the sunset extension on the sales tax exemption for construction materials of regional, for projects of regional significance.
Members of the committee have any question on that measure, which is HB 352? Hearing none, is there a motion? Motion by Representative Corbett. Is there a second? Second by Representative Blackman. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? It's on to rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You are welcome.
Thank you for the special attention.
Yes, sir. Let's see. Well, Representative Rich, I'm looking, you were in a hurry, but you don't even have a bill on the calendar.
Was that fast?
Wow. All right. Very good. Okay, that being the case, we'll start back at the top of our calendar, HB 168, which is LC 431181, Representative Darlene Taylor, and this is also a sunset. Representative Taylor, you're going to sit down at the table and give us 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an extension of sales tax exemption for our federally qualified health centers and some of our community health centers. It's been through committee. It saves dollars for the clinics. They hire more people and can serve more of those underserved medical folks.
Thank you, Representatives. Do many members of the committee have any question of Representative Taylor on House Bill 168? Hearing no questions, is there a motion with regard to this measure? Have a motion by, was that Ms. Buckner? Representative Buckner, and a second by Representative Corbett. All those in favor of House Bill 168, LC 431181, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? You're on to rules.
Thank you.
Next measure will be House Bill 266, which is LC 289155, dealing with 529 plans by Representative Wiedauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is simply an increase in the standard deduction for contributions into 529 accounts. Currently, we sit at $2,000 for a single filer and $4,000 for married filing jointly. This doubles those two amounts to $4,000 and $8,000. It would be effective next year.
Any member of the committee have questions of Representative Wiedauer? All right, you do have a couple of questions. Yep. Number 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor of the bill, what's the reason that we're looking to increase the threshold from 2,000 to 4,000?
There's a couple of reasons, Larry Colonel. Thank you for the question. One, we're not quite on par with many of the other states that offer 529 accounts. In your presentation materials, there's actually a 529 presentation that outlines several states that have significantly higher, actually. We're just trying to do a marginal increase here to help encourage people to utilize the program. Feel like this point at those margin or at those numbers doesn't quite necessarily spark the interest of some people to get involved in it.
Mr. Chairman, if I might ask one follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate the gentleman's answer. The trouble I'm having though is if the object is to encourage more people to participate, I don't understand how bumping the threshold from 2 to 4 encourages broader participation. It just seems to me that all that does is give additional state tax dollars into the 529 for people who are already maxing out at 2,000 and maybe going beyond that, so that we're going from 120 to 240 in the state monies that would go into those 529s. Can you help me with that?
Sure, and I appreciate your time earlier on this matter as we discussed it. Where that stands is that I believe that for a lot of people, there's a lot of different investment options out there. At $2,000 for some of these single filers, it actually becomes a burdensome situation to even deal with it. They'll invest in other programs, other methods of investments.
Number 1, is that Representative Fry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2,000 bucks is not a burden to a lot of people. You know, you got it seems like a bill that's going to fund our private schools on this, and it's just increasing the amounts to the folks that are already going to private schools, honestly. And I appreciate the leader's comments on this, and it's just one of these things where I feel like this is just going to take more state dollars away from what we need to do and give it to the people that really don't need the help. So I still love you. My delegation member, my good friend I've known for a while, but I just felt like I had to say that. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, number 23, is that you, Representative Knight, Chairman Knight?
Thank you. Representative, I want to applaud you for this. I had some questions as to the amount, because it's really not a great deal of money. But what I've come to see, and over the presentations that we've heard, both in higher education and in the higher education appropriations committee meetings, was that this little bit of incentive is giving a lot of people a lot of incentive to come in and help save for education. And the amount of growth that we've seen since the last change that we did has been great. And I think anytime we can help people and encourage Georgians to save and put their own money into the skin in the game, if you will, to help with educational purposes, is a great move, and I applaud you for this bill.
Thank you.
Number 10 is Representative Rich.
Hi, Representative Wiedauer. Is part of the purpose of the 529 program to help Georgians afford college education?
Sure. I mean, anytime we can encourage savings earlier on, grandparents obviously can get involved. You can designate any beneficiary of this. So anytime we can incentivize people saving for college with the costs that are at hand now is definitely a good thing.
When was the last time that the deduction amount was changed?
I believe it's been this since the inception 17 years ago.
17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Has tuition at our university system of Georgia schools increased in the last 17 years?
Just slightly.
So, so would this deduction help more people afford to go to college?
As
Now
I
with-
see it, yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
Number 28, is that Representative Rhodes?
Chairman, I was just going to clarify a few things. As Representative Wiedauer stated, this is the state plan 529, correct?
Yes, sir.
This plan is only available from the state. It can't be sold from advisors. It can't be sold from anybody. People have a lot of other options if they want to put a lump sum in, and they do get a tax break with this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I was just clarifying a few things. There are things that you can do on your own as a private investor, and things that you can do with this state plan to get a tax break. And the 529 can be used for any higher education, college, dental school, med school, anything above K-12. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you, Representative Rhodes. All right, on the measure, on House Bill 266, LC 289155, offered by Representative Wiedauer, is there a motion? I have a motion by Chairman Williamson and a second by Chairman Stevens. Do pass. All those in favor, if you signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed, and the measure passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, our next item is House Bill 287, which is LC 431215. It's offered by Representative Dubnik. This bill does have a fiscal note, and it is also on your electronic device, and this deals with what we're calling our preceptors.
Thank you,
Representative
Mr.
Dubnik?
Chairman, members of the committee. This bill seeks to support Georgia preceptors who are training Georgia students by converting an existing tax deduction to a tax credit. I just want to define a preceptor as a licensed advanced practice registered nurse, licensed physician assistant, or licensed Georgia physician, either MD or DO, who are providing community-based training.
Very good. Members of the committee have any questions of Representative Dubnik? Okay, number 25, is that Representative Corbett? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Representative, for bringing this. Is this the same bill pretty much we've passed the last 2 years?
Yes, sir, that's my understanding.
Thank you for bringing the bill.
Third time's a charm.
Seeing no other questions, is there a motion with regard to House Bill 287? Have a motion by Representative Buckner. Is there a second? Second by Representative Newton. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? You're on to rule, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next measure before us is House Bill 314, which is LC 289231 ERS, dealing with boat titles. Our author is Chairman Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 314 has no fiscal impact on the state whatsoever. It is a blind title generating generation, if you will, every time a person registers their boat. And for the first time, the bankers will now own a title or get a title for a lien if they can pass this bill.
Any questions of Chairman Stevens on House Bill 314? Seeing none, is there a motion with regard to this measure? A motion do pass by Representative Smith. Vance Smith is second. By Representative Beasley Teague. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And you're on to rules. 352 we handled earlier with Representative Reeves, and we're on now to House Bill 365, which is LC 289258S. This is dealing with our title ad valorem tax, authored by Representative Blackman.
Is okay to present from here, Chairman
Yes, sir.
Harrell? This bill, as it relates to the title ad valorem tax, would actually close a loophole. And we've seen this measure before in fixes that have been presented over the last couple of years, and it is not a fix that has made it through to the governor's signature. So we have included it in this measure, gotten input from all our industry players, and agreed upon final language that would close the loophole with regards to used cars and bring them up to retail. And it also, at the same time as we level things out, and we see some revenue increase there, we dropped the rate from 7 to 6.6%.
Anyone have questions of Representative Blackman on HB 365? Seeing none, is there a motion? And a motion by Chairman Stevens, second by Representative Rutledge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And you are on to rules.
Thank
House
you very
Bill 419, LC 431265ER. It's our Internal Revenue Code update by Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you presenting the other day. I had another bill, and I apologize to the subcommittee. Briefly, this is one of the shortest IRC update bills that I've seen in a long time. As you know, the state piggybacks off of the federal code, so if you look through this, we have a lot of date changes. There's really not a lot of changes this year. You'll see one thing that we've done is that we've elected to allow the partnerships to pay partnership tax audits like they do in the federal code, so that they can make a election to get in. Again, one of the shortest IRC updates I've seen in a long time, and I'll ask that the committee pass it so that we can get it to the Senate and get it to the governor as quickly as possible, such that all the folks who are trying to file tax returns this year can hurry up and get that done, because until we do it, things will be in limbo.
Any member of the committee have questions of Chairman Knight? Seeing none, what is your pleasure on House Bill 419?
Move.
Have a movement by Representative Corbett, a second by Representative Beasley Teague. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? You're on to rules. Our next measure is House Bill 447, which is LC 431266 EC, dealing with jet fuel exemptions, and Floor Leader LaRicchia will present this measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and also wanted to say thank you again for the subcommittee the other day and hearing all of what we had to say. So I'm going to try to maybe shorten it a little bit for the committee. Most of you have heard it, but I started off the other day with just saying how blessed we are in Georgia by being able to brag that we have been blessed over the last several years and in a growing economy and jobs, and that the airline industry has been a big part of that success. And as you know, that manufacturers don't pay sales taxes on energy that they use, and the energy that drives the airline industry is their fuel. Currently, we have no sales tax on the fuel in Georgia, and what this bill does, similar to Chairman Burt Reeves and Chairlady Taylor, is extend the sunset. Extends it longer, obviously, than theirs, but the second thing that this bill does is adds a 1/2 penny per gallon excise tax to help us to generate some revenue that'll allow us to get a federal match, a 9-to-1 federal match, and be able to fund regional or general aviation airports all around rural Georgia. If you look on the bill on page 2, you'll see lines 29 through 43. That's what outlines the 1/2 penny per gallon excise tax. It also defines distributor. And so when you see all those underlined words, that's pretty much what that means, is it tells you that we're going to do a 1/2 penny per gallon and generate the money to help fund rural airports. The sunset is a 20-year sunset, and I'll speak to that just briefly, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. When you make an investment into the airline industry, there has to be predictability in that because of the competition. It takes several years to recoup that investment. But before we even met today, there's a $5 million investment going on right here at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. It takes many years to recoup that investment. So what this sunset seeks to do is allow enough predictability. We've used the expression that it gives them a long enough runway to be able to make sure that they calculate that into their investment and trying to get a return on that. And so they've been very helpful. The airline industry has been very helpful with coming up with this entire proposal of wanting to pay for investment into airports that, quite frankly, they cannot use. You cannot land an A380 in Douglas, Georgia, Airbus, but they're going to help invest into that with this excise tax. So I'm just going to stop it there, Mr. Chairman. If anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. You may have noticed kind of a common thread on the bills that were presented before yours, and so I appreciate you shutting it down there. Mr.
I was just going to say,
Mr. Knight has a question for you, I believe. Chairman Knight.
Thank you. And I apologize for missing the committee meeting. As we know, a lot of committee meetings are happening at the same time with bills and other committee. But give me real quick, this excise tax, how much is that generating?
Based on the estimated number of gallons of fuel, jet fuel that will be purchased around the state, not just in Atlanta, about 3.5 to 4 million. Now, we believe, and I say we believe because we've had hours and hours of conversation about this with everybody, it could generate as much as 7 to 8 million. But the number that we came up with through DOR was a conservative 3.5 to 4 million. And a 9-to-1 match federal drawdown gives us about 35 million more.
Well, and I know this body has deliberated this, and this is more of a policy statement and question. Aviation is a big deal in Georgia, whether it's at Hartsfield, world's busiest airport, Savannah, with certainly the premier aviation jet maker in the world, I would say there. But it's also important to all of our communities. And I think the policy question needs to be is, are we adequately funding all of our community airports? Because those are economic engines, respectively in those local communities and those local airports. I do question. I think this General Assembly needs to make sure that it is going forward with a policy that adequately funds it, because I know there are a lot of projects out there that may not be eligible for federal funding. So this may not help a lot. And there's
That's
a
right.
long list at your airports, my airports, and a lot of members here. So I want to make sure that we take that into account. If we're going to hold aviation at a high esteem, we need to make sure we're investing back in it and at our local level. And this may be a start, but I'm not sure
This
if
has
it
sparked
goes as far as it needs to go.
This has sparked a larger conversation about funding the regional airports and rural airports with the Department of Transportation and HB 170. The fee component creates about a $200 million. And part of what we can help fund out of that $200 million a year is aviation, and we're having a larger conversation about using more of that to put out.
Because I know we got there's $200 million worth of projects out there or so. I mean, it's well in the
Probably
hundreds
more
of
than
million
that.
dollars.
Yeah, probably more than that.
And some of these are required updates, so
That's right.
just
Representative Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chairman Knight, for what you said. I think just wanted to echo that and say that these smaller airports are feeling a little crunch, and I appreciate y'all looking into that to make them whole and make them feel better about being able to operate. We've got very important football team that flies in and out of a local airport, and
Right.
want to make sure that everything's okay with that. I think a lot of people here also feel the same way, so thank you for that.
That's right, Representative Fry. I want to say this one more time. What's neat about this is all of the ones that are buying jet fuel, especially the larger airlines, are investing back into airports that they can't even use, which is good for all of us.
All right, seeing no more questions, what is the will of the committee? Chairman Stevens has a motion to move. Is there a second? Second by Representative Rhodes. All those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? And you are also on to rules.
Thank you, Mr.
And our
Chairman.
final measure today, as I mentioned at the beginning, was previously before this committee. We remitted it back to the subcommittee to confirm language was correct. There's no change at all, and this is House Bill 132. It's 43-1151, dealing with the transferability of tax credits, and Representative Williamson has that measure. Representative, in your number 21.
This is the perfect time for my tablet not to pull the bill up. What's the bill number? 132, HB 132. While it's refreshing on my tablet, simply stated this bill had 2 hearings. It was passed out of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. House Bill 132 allows Georgia's film tax credit and post-production credits, which have already been earned, to be transferred to a wholly owned sister company rather than being forced to sell them. Currently, the company earning the film production company or post-production company that earns the credit can use them against their income taxes, payroll withholding taxes, or if that doesn't exhaust the credit they've earned, they can sell them. And we all know that when you sell it, the brokers appropriately need to get paid, and they don't enjoy the full benefit of the income tax credit they earned. This simply allows them to transfer to a sister company and then most of whom are going to be filing a consolidated return, or I'll defer to the CPA on the committee to correct my terminology, or a unified return, or whatever the accounting terminology is. So it can be used where it was earned, and that's simply what the bill does. So happy to answer any questions.
Members of the committee have any question of Representative Williamson? Seeing none, this is House Bill 132. Is there a motion? Motion do pass from Chairman Stevens. Is there a second? Second from, who said it? Representative Corbett. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Are there any opposed? And you are on the rules, and Ways and Means is adjourned. Thank you.